Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to talk about how the Kikuyu were so aggressive when the Europeans came, that is in the late, we can say the late 19th century. And it wasn't easy for the Europeans to even go into the land of the WaKikuyu. And this comes from the book I just finished reading, and that is John Boyes, The King of the WaKikuyu. And I did record another video where I talked about him coming to Kenya and going to Mount Kenya and becoming friendly or forming friendship with the leaders of the community. And then at some point, he came to see himself as the king of the WaKikuyu. Now, as I said in the previous video, we need to take what John Boye says with a big pinch of salt, because this guy was basically a con. But I think even though he was a con, when you read his book, I think there are details or facts that you can get out of the book that we can say they are more or less accurate, or at least it's what he saw when he went into that country. Now, one of the things that become very clear when you read John Boy's book is that the Kikuyu from the word go did not want the Europeans to come into their land. It's not like they developed this dislike for the British later on. It started from just on the word go when the Europeans came. And you can see it in different parts of the book where when the Kikuyus saw the Europeans, they either attacked them, or if they thought they could not attack them, then they could just make it very clear from afar that we don't want white people on our land. And it was not only white people, but Arabs and Swahilis and Somalis. They did not want anybody on their land. Now, I'm going to read a part where Boyes describes the situation. He says that the WaKikuyu, as we knew, seldom or never show themselves or run the risk of fight in the open, but lie like snakes in the long grass or in some dense bush within a few yards of the line of a march, watching for a gap in the ranks and for some unconscious spotter to stray away or loiter a few yards behind. Even then, not a sound is heard, scarcely perceptible twang of a small bow and almost inaudible whiz of a little poison arrow for a dozen yards through the air, a slight puncture in the arm, throat, or chest, followed almost inevitably by the death of a man. So he describes how the Kikuyu used to attack. He says that they usually did not show themselves. They will hide, and then they will attack using surprise as an advantage, of course, using arrows that are poisoned and spears. And this way he describes it is like they were so good at it that the Europeans, as he says in other parts of the book, really feared going into Kikuyu land. And even when Boyes decided that he wanted to go to Kikuyu land to get food, they really warned him. In fact, a guy was sent to him to tell him to go back, but he didn't go back. He went to Kikuyu land and he did become friends with the likes of Karuri Wagakure. And the rest, of course, I've talked about in the previous video, him becoming the king. So when you read the book, one thing becomes very clear. The WaKikuyu did not want anyone on their land. And they will shout it to the white people if they saw them, when they knew that those white people were well armed. And if they were not very well armed, or they were not taking steps to protect themselves, then they usually attacked. Those are my random thoughts.